Hello guys, I'm Ryan, right?
I'm Jerry.
And I'm Veronica.
So we three just came back from watching The Hateful Eight, where ArcLight did not refund my money. What they did instead was they gave me a readmission that I could use online because I was 15 minutes past the hour mark when they can return money to me.
How unfortunate.
Well, they wouldn't return me my money.
What experience was this for?
The Hateful Eight today. There was one ticket extra that I had to return.
Beforehand, really?
Because you came with no one, Jerry.
I'm sorry.
You third wheeled it.
You're supposed to bring a date.
You're supposed to bring a date.
It was supposed to be a double date.
This was a romantic film that we just came back from. You dick.
Totally. It's a completely...
awkward it is, just you there, dude. Anyway, none of that's true. We're gonna talk about The Hateful Eight. Spoiler talk here.
Yeah.
It's more going to be a talk. I don't want to feel like we're reviewing. You know.
Well, and there are only spoilers for this movie if you're like a Tarantino fan. Like I don't know very many people who are like, oh, don't say anything about The Hateful Eight, guys. Like it's not like Star Wars, you know.
I feel like you can't though. Like
you can spoil things, but like people aren't freaking out about it unless they're Tarantino fans.
I feel like the most you can give away is the plot. And like descriptions of the characters, sure.
Like who dies and stuff like that.
Ending.
And what whose allegiances are where and who people actually are.
Yeah, I don't want to get...
There's lots of stuff to spoil, but...
Yeah. But immediately talking about this film, I really liked it, you know? Like we saw it on 70 millimeter where there's the... Huh?
It's really well done.
Yeah, we saw it on 70 millimeter where, you know, like the film, and I like that touch. The touch of that was really nice.
Well, it's really like there's lots of definition. It's weird. Like it's weird seeing 70. I wish they hadn't edged it out of the dome, because like I saw The Master in the dome, and they shot that on 70 millimeter too, and that was like,
yeah.
So like to see it on a screen that's way big, you know. I don't know if they're playing it on like an IMAX style screen, but to see it on a really big screen, you get an even better sense. But even on this screen, it's like you can tell the detail, the definition, that film grain.
Yeah, it did look very old fashioned.
Like a real movie.
Yeah, grainy.
Yeah, like the grain look is always cool to add. You know, it's
well,
like
it makes the landscapes and stuff look gorgeous.
I noticed it more when it was landscape shots.
Yeah.
Much easier to notice. Yeah, much easier to notice.
Which were really pretty, by the way.
Oh yeah.
The opening was very pretty.
It's funny how like the two Christmas movies, like the big talked about Christmas films, were The Revenant and Hateful Eight. And they're both like take place in the snow.
Incredibly violent.
Yeah, and they're like incredibly violent too.
The last time anybody released like a nice movie on Christmas, like because people release Christmas movies like a month before time, so that everyone can see them 10 times with their kids.
Yeah.
You know.
But okay, so in this movie, just starting off like from the very beginning, I love how this film really honors the title in the sense that these characters are not the most likable in a lot of ways. Like even with Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell to me is the least bad out of everyone.
Yeah, he's not very likable, but pound for pound, at least what they give you to work with in terms of his backstory, he doesn't seem like a completely terrible guy.
I can agree with that.
He seems like he keeps to some integrity and certain like principles he decides to live by.
He's got a code. He's a dick, but he has a code.
Yeah, he's a total like because sorry, what?
When he hits what's her character's name?
Daisy.
When he hits her in the face several times, like that is really made me cringe.
Yeah,
totally.
And that immediately makes him not so likable too, because even though we're like hearing, because was there anything specific they said that she actually did?
No.
She's
murderer.
Murderer of some sort. We don't know the intimate details.
Yeah, like it seemed like she would be like the nasty kind of murderer.
Well,
you know, like stab a guy to death or push his eyeballs in or some shit, you know.
And I mean, you know, here be spoilers, but you know, I mean, she's part of this gang.
Yeah.
So we can only assume that it has something to do with that as well, especially for a $10,000 bounty.
I think she played that very, very well too.
Yeah,
like just her facial expressions and the nasty. Oh, she's just so nasty.
No, yeah.
But likable at the same time.
Yeah, totally. And she does a great job. Like you spend so much of this movie being like, what is her deal? Like, why is she's making all these, like, the whole time you get the sense that she knows something or she's got something just going on in her head, and you're like, what is it? And then when it comes out, you're like,
yeah,
well done.
Yeah, she is something else in that fucking movie, man.
Yeah,
like I love the makeup on her, like the nasty teeth. Like she's one of the very, like, because you get like other characters way later past the intermission where it's like you get a sneak peek at some characters, like Zoe Bell. What was the people who run the place?
Oh yeah, Minnie and what is his name? Sweet Dave.
Yeah,
and their little staff there.
They're the only like good people in the film.
yeah. And you know, you start to, in a Tarantino universe, especially this universe, you start to wonder, this world I should say, you start to wonder how good anybody is, but you can assume these people are probably alright.
Yeah.
You know? Minnie is probably an okay gal. She seems nice enough.
What I love about Tarantino's approach to this film was that it's such a build-up film that there's violence here and there, like when Kurt Russell fucking like elbows Daisy. Ugh. Like that was a nasty elbow.
Yeah, it was.
You know, and there's always the grittiness to it.
Well, it's not cool. Like it has an impact and it still has rhythm, but it's not cool. Like you are cringing each time. Something violent happens through most of this. You know?
Yeah, and it's like everyone's wielding guns and stuff and talking about like the hangman and hearing their backstories and stuff. It's a build up to see, like, to take a look into their world. You know, it's brilliant in that way.
Well, and it incorporates that sense of like legends that would sort of crawl across the Old West, you know, and you know, people who would get reputations and they would get nicknames and you know these things of, you know, a bunch of people, some of whom have reputations that precede them, you know, coming together and people's perceptions of that.
Sort of like,
you know?
social media back in the day.
Yeah, it's like if you did enough cool stuff, people would know, you know. Yeah,
and the film too, like. Humor is really, I don't know, what's the word for it again? Subjective. You know, I didn't really laugh a lot during this film, but I noticed, like, especially in the first half, a lot of people were laughing. I know you were laughing a lot.
I was laughing my ass off. I was surprised by how I was enjoying that humor.
No, I heard people were, like, cracking up, like, before I watched the film. I heard that people would just die of laughter with this film. Yeah. And I could see why they would.
I don't think it's a gut buster, but there's a lot of humor throughout. I mean, because it's that thing of like when people are being despicable, but the movie's not trying to convince you they're not. And that's just what those characters would say. You're just like, that's terrible, but I'm laughing at it, you know? Like,
sorry, what's up?
Well, this is kind of, is it on the same topic?
Sure. This is a podcast, baby. We're not cutting any of this.
Right. This isn't a video. I forgot. I want to backtrack a little bit with Kurt Russell's character and Daisy. What was Kurt Russell's character's name?
The hangman, John Ruth.
John Ruth.
Anyway, well, as weird as it sounds, I kind of liked their chemistry. Like their relationship.
You got the sense they've been traveling together a while.
It was really screwed up circumstances, and like he treated her like shit. But there still seemed to be some kind of like understanding between the two.
Yeah. There was something there where at times it kind of looked like Kurt Russell might have even liked her in some ways, you know, or cared about her in some ways.
You respect that feistiness. Because that's the thing, is like as horrible as he is to her some of the time, it's like you get the sense that they're both kind of clashing the whole time. Like she gives him a run for his money in a way. Like, you know, I mean, she's still his prisoner, but you get the sense that she's not broken by him in any way, you know?
And, I mean, if you think about it, they've probably been chained to each other for, I don't know, maybe a few days.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of time to be spending with a person.
Shit takes a while.
You can see that time that they spent just in in the movie.
I like the beginning a lot of the character. You know, the more I just think about this film, the more I actually like it.
You kind of do that a lot. Though. Yeah. You feel that way a lot about
because
movies.
it's an impacted movie, and people usually expect a instant opinion out of me. But like the first half, I remember when it cut to intermission, I was like, really don't know how I feel about this movie. Now when I look back on it,
but you're
I'm
not
like,
supposed to. It's not a complete piece yet.
Yeah, and it's cool to do that because, like we said earlier, it gets a debate going already halfway through the film because it does play out like Clue, where it's a mystery. You're trying to. I do have a question though.
Yeah.
How did Kurt Russell catch on to the fact that there might be someone who's in on like trying to rescue Daisy or something?
Ooh.
Because that didn't make
When
sense
does
to me
that
how he
happen?
caught on to that.
I feel like it could have originally started as paranoia
Yeah.
and then
I mean,
Like
actually
Inception
led to
or
be true.
something.
Somebody even says that, I think, out loud. I think
Sam
Sam
Jackson
Jackson or
says
somebody
that.
says, like, you
Oh.
talking paranoid, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know like where that actually came from. But besides that, like that is like the big plot of the film, essentially.
Well, and I think it's because, like, he already mistrust or doesn't trust Walton Goggins, you know, and then you got other people in this shack that are sort of colorful and questionable, and everybody's got ties to Red Rock, you know.
Right, and I'm sure
So-
he realized that she was a part of the gang, so she's got a gang probably going to try to help her out.
True.
Because it's like, you know, what a coincidence that I would wind up here with the future sheriff and the hangman. You know,
Yeah.
like, so something must be happening here, you know.
Yeah.
Or at least it could be, you know.
And I'm glad Tarantino made the choice of not putting Django in it and instead rewriting it and then putting Sam Jackson in there.
Yeah.
Because that character, it belongs way more with the Hateful Eight, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah, it just
Django wasn't a
wouldn't be
piece of
Django.
shit like that.
and Kurt Russell and Sam Jackson, their dialogue when they're writing together is great.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, I like how they're like, don't I know you? Yeah, we had steak once, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Because that's how that probably would have been, you know. It's like, oh, yeah, we met 8 months ago, and you might be more inclined to remember somebody you only met once 8 months
Right,
ago because, you know, life is different then. And,
Yeah.
and what I like, too, is, like, it's not a big plot point, but you do get a sense for, like, the first couple chapters of the movie are all in that stagecoach, and you're like, yeah, everything took a long time back then. Like, this is
Yeah.
a long journey, and all we got to do is talk.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
we'd have more reason to discuss who we are and, you know, what's going on around us.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how Kurt Russell's, you know, interaction with Daisy wasn't just like, just be quiet, you know, don't talk. Like, there were times where he let her just be her, you know, like it wasn't always, but there were times like that. There was a good moment where he lets her play the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And
And
like
then-
he's even kind of into it at first, you know.
And then he suddenly
Until
breaks it.
Until shit hits the fan, until he
I
starts
thought
to
that was a
suspect.
little out of nowhere, though. Don't you feel like it was a sudden shift in energy? Like,
Well, I
just
don't think
so
he wants to
suddenly-
allow himself to be moved by what she's doing.
See, I thought there was
okay.
a subtle... I thought he caught something in there.
And the lyrics, I thought that it might have
Was
been.
it that?
Yeah, because she says something... She specifies a John behind her who she'll see hang or something like that. Something basically
Yeah.
fuck you-ish to him after he asked her, like, is there another verse? Like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And I like the established chemistry with Sam Jackson and Kurt Russell in the sense that, like, you know, they are two different bounty hunters with two very different codes.
Yeah.
You know, like, I like how Kurt Russell, he didn't seem like he had anything against black people, you know? Like,
Well,
until Sam Jackson, he found out Sam Jackson lied to him about it. But, like,
Well,
he says even earlier, he had
it's-
steak with him at one point,
It's
you know?
that
Yeah,
weird
because-
thing of like, you don't get the sense that John Ruth is necessarily, like, you know, full out racist per se, but everyone back then
Was a little bit racist.
Yeah, most people were at least a little bit like he
Yeah.
still probably doesn't regard him as like an equal, but there is probably a professional respect
Yes.
and a respect for war service, you know, that turns that over.
And I love how Sam Jackson really was a character. You know, he wasn't Samuel L. Jackson just being loud again.
Yeah.
Like, it was actually more toned down than a lot of his, like, except excluding the part after, you know, he's, like, yelling in agony. But before that, he's not, like, Mr. Loud Jackson, as usual.
Well, there's still nuances, you know.
Yeah. And I love how nasty the character is. Like, he is a man who's just looking out for himself. He doesn't... Like that's
He's just looking out for himself, but there are shades of that. Not every shade, but there are shades of that you can at least understand because of his position in that world. You know,
exactly.
It's like this is a guy who would have to kind of do whatever it takes to get by, to survive, and, you know, to subsist in this world. And then there's one particular plot point in which he does go beyond that to the point of, like, yeah, that's cruel, dude. Like, I don't think I would have done that.
by the end of this movie, I hated Samuel L. Jackson's character. I
Like
hated him.
Like, there are a lot of things you can forgive, but when he gets vindictive, it's pretty ugly.
No, you can totally see how little he cares about life, how little value he gives to other people, because, you hear his history. He killed over 100 people, right? Or it was 37 of his side, and then like 47 cops or something, or sheriffs or whatever they were called.
It's like all the soldiers and stuff who manned that prison died in that fire.
As well as prisoners.
Yeah, and I get the sense that the prisoners is just like, well,
he didn't
they
give
couldn't
a
find
fuck.
a way out, so it's not my,
He didn't give a fuck about anybody. And
it's war as hell.
You see that later on in the film when he's just like killing people left and right. Like, he didn't care.
I don't think he doesn't care about anybody, but I think
No, because
the
he had
people he cares about would be it's the respect of like, who's in the room with me now, who do I have a rapport with, or a respect, like, a professional respect, because this isn't a world that is ever going to give him anything.
You know what I didn't see coming was, like, at the end that Walton Goggins and Sam Jackson would be like buddies about the whole thing,
Oh,
like,
I didn't like that.
I kind of admire it for how fucking like nasty they went, how this nasty moment of, especially them delighting in this person's death is what really bonds them in that moment.
But each is a man of his own code.
Yeah.
And their codes just happen to align for that. It's like they're not really friends per se, but they've both been wronged by the same person. My enemy of my enemy is my friend,
Yeah, because it starts off with them and, like, he's racist and he doesn't like black people and stuff.
But he's also very friendly and...
Yeah, he starts out very friendly.
Yeah, he starts out very friendly and vulnerable, and by the end of it, I don't know, I think that he really showed how much of a coward he was by the end of the film.
Coward?
And power hungry.
He's power hungry. He's an opportunist, but everybody, I feel like, in this movie is
an
opportunist to a degree.
He turned down a lot of fucking money because at the end of the day, this woman still tried to kill him.
Well, the thing is, it seems like this is what happens when you get everyone. All these are sort of junkyard dogs, all in it for themselves, or at least who are all watching their own backs first and foremost. And what happens?
But Kurt Russell and Sam Jackson, they would look out for each other though, and I feel like
until he lied to him, and I like that they never brought that back around. Like, once he broke his trust, that bond is broken.
I loved that moment though when he found out that he lied. It was so just.
Did I hurt your feelings?
It was.
As a matter of fact. You did.
Because when you see him talking about the letter and asking to see it in the beginning, you see he like turns into a little boy.
Yeah, when he's reading it, puts the glasses on.
So amused by it, and then to see the utter disappointment and embarrassment and anger when he found out it was a lie.
Yeah, I mean,
hilarious.
I could see why he felt hurt by it, because I'm sure that's one of the things that really made him like. Or at least, have some type of respect and trust.
Which was Samuel L. Jackson's character's, I can't freaking remember any of their names, but which was his point. That was his point.
Warren.
He did it for that exact reason.
Major Warren.
Yeah, and that adds more to Sam Jackson's character of just being like, man. But no, I admire that because it's actually hard to write characters like that when they're not, because like it's easy to write a character like that when they're just like, all they do is murder. But this film has that classic Tarantino-driven dialogue in a less flashy way, actually. And what I like about the dialogue is that you're listening to these nasty, hateful eight talk, and you're just.
Well, and that's the other thing too is it's nice to have a movie where it's like even shitty people relax and share a few laughs,
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what makes it partly amusing to watch, it's not just people going,
yeah. And I think it's hard to write characters like that where you're genuinely interested in their dialogue and not just what, because it's a weird film because Tarantino kind of allows you to choose who you root for.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's what I could see people like Veronica was like, well, at least the gang, Channing Tatum's gang was, at least it was out of love of what he was trying to do because he was trying to save his sister, you know? And so that's one argument one can make. But, you know, then the counter argument could be, well, he's still like a fucking criminal. And
Massacred
he's still
everybody in
vicious. He's the one who led the murder of all the nice people in the movie,
Yeah,
you know?
Well, and you can only imagine what, you know, this gang has probably done in their spare time.
Yeah, exactly.
When this situation wasn't at hand.
Because they seem like they enjoyed doing that, too.
Yeah.
Especially Michael Madsen, you know?
Or they had no question about doing it, you know, because it's his sister. Like, we're going to kill all these innocent people because it's just what we do. Like, it's just how we get her back. That's the plan.
Michael Madsen, though, Joe Gage. The thing with Michael Madsen's character, I just wanted to see him a little more.
I like that they used him differently this time because I'm so used to him coming on and really
just
getting to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this time he's very restrained.
Mysterious, though. I think he was one of the most mysterious characters.
Yeah,
because of that.
Because he was so understated and so mellow, I was looking at him more because I was like, I don't know what this guy.
Interesting.
He could, and that was why when you leaned over to me and you were like, who was it, Bob Poison, I was like, I don't know, I think it could have been him. I think it could have been Michael Madsen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because it's like, something's up with Bob. But
Bob.
Michael Madsen is so agreeable and so kind of doesn't want any part of this that I don't know if...
Did they ever even tell us who did it?
Yeah. Bob says he did it. Or not Bob, Joe Gage says he did it.
I thought he was just saying that because he was trying to protect her.
I guess you could argue that, but still, it was either him or
Tim Roth's character.
Yeah,
we haven't mentioned Tim Roth. I really loved
awesome.
his character.
Tim Roth brought the perfect level because that character could have easily been like, this character doesn't belong. He's too cartoony.
Yeah.
He brought it to an authentic level,
Loved
and I love the energy of the character. He was kind of a comic relief in some ways, you know?
Because he's so charming and he's so bouncy.
Yeah, I think maybe that's part of the reason why. I was telling Ryan earlier that I got a sense of comfort from his character. I think that might have been why, because he just seemed so... I don't know, he seemed like an honorable man.
I kind of wish they left him out of the gang, though, to be honest.
He didn't really seem like he fit in that gang.
Because I like the idea of him being the hangman character. Like, I thought that was a cooler character than just making him one of the people a part of the gang.
But you could further surmise that maybe that's his role in this gang, is maybe because he is from a different land, he's British, he can at least go from Cockney to a more affluent dialect. Like, perhaps he is more of the con artist in their operation instead of, you know, more muscle or, you know.
Well, those gangsters are damn good actors, that's for sure.
Yeah. What do you think of Channing Tatum?
I think he's alright. I mean, I wasn't blown away. But
Neither was I.
But he does just fine.
Because when it's in the credits, when it says, and Channing Tatum, I was like, he's going to be like a really special character. Which he was.
He was an important character.
Yeah, but he wasn't like, you didn't really need Channing Tatum for that.
I didn't quite believe that he would be the leader of the gang.
I could see why someone wouldn't buy that, yeah. I
felt like he was playing a leader.
Well, he looks a lot younger than everyone else.
That's true.
Like, all these older dudes are just following him around.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but at the same time, I'm like, well, he's kind of like the charming leader of the gang, you know? He speaks French and
I mean, there were outlaws like that.
He's like more of the intellectual outlaw, whereas everyone else was more just nasty, you know?
And also, I mean, you don't know how much French he really speaks. You know, that's it's like, you know, that could be an affectation, you know, of some kind, just to make him all the more charming. Like, oh, this guy's cultured, right? He's not a rustler or a bandit of any kind.
I feel like with Channing Tatum's performance, I feel like the second time I watch this movie, it's going to be more clear to me. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm going to like it more the second time I watch his performance.
Well, at least me, it's like going in, you or at least I almost expected, like, oh, he's going to make him some kind of more colorful character.
Exactly, yeah.
And I feel like maybe in the next...
Because that's what I mean, he was really subtle and he didn't try to steal the show, you know?
Yeah. There were like little moments, especially in that one like profile shot when he's really telling it to Bruce Dern in front of the fire. Like, there are some really good little nuances in that speech, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not like a flashy performance. or a wild performance.
And I like how he wasn't Mr. Smiley evil guy.
Yeah.
You know, like Channing Tatum could have easily resorted to just charm, but he doesn't. He keeps it pretty authentic. Yeah, that's what I mean. Just talking about it, I'm like, actually, it was a pretty cool performance, you know, in a lot of ways. I didn't recognize him at first when he shot Sam Jackson's nuts. I didn't know.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it was him.
Well, it was dark. You couldn't like see.
It was fast too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was speaking
Which is
Spanish
good.
or French or whatever. I don't know what he was speaking.
It's Channing Tatum's introduction, shooting Sam Jackson's balls. Tarantino likes to shoot the crotch.
Yeah, it's not something we do.
Like,
I mean, for better or for worse, he does go places like that. You know?
Yeah.
Can I just go back to Channing Tatum really quick? His face he had the prettiest face out of everybody's faces in that movie. And when he pops up, I mean, you don't really see much of him in the film. And then when he pops up out of the basement to see his sister, and they have that moment of love and relief of seeing each other, and they're smiling, and then all of a sudden, his head gets blown off.
Yeah.
It was the most, like, from my preference, I didn't like the second half as much just because I'm not crazy about violence.
Uglier.
It's just was very hard for me to watch. So when I saw some kind of inkling of like love and like relief, suddenly it was all taken away and I was traumatized.
Well, the thing with that scene though is like, what else would Sam Jackson do? His character, it's like.
No, it's.
I knew it. I knew he was gonna die.
I mean, I saw it coming that he was
play
gonna.
out, you know?
I saw it coming that his head was gonna get blown off because I'm like, that's what his character's gonna do to him.
I
You
hate
think he's?
that.
I'm like, if a guy blew my balls off the second I see him, I'm going to annihilate him.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Yeah, Channing Tatum deserved to get
No,
killed.
not Channing Tatum. Samuel L. Jackson. I was glad.
You don't
that
blow a guy's nuts off.
That was the only violence that I was totally okay with.
When Sam Jackson was getting tortured.
They do give him. It's weird. In the main action of the story, he is perhaps the most agreeable character, but he's the one character we get a backstory scene on.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty despicable scene.
Yeah.
And like you get why he's so vindictive because it's you are my representative of somebody I hate the most who has done the most wrong to me in this world. But then, at least me as a human being, I was like, this is still terrible. Like, to do this to a human.
Yeah,
Like,
Samuel L. Jackson, I'm really glad they gave us a scene that shows how despicable this guy can be because it's Samuel L. Jackson.
Are you talking about when he had the
Yeah, I don't agree with him raping that guy. I don't agree with that. I'm saying that the idea of thus giving us an actual flashback was neat to me because Samuel L. Jackson is the easiest one to like at first. Yeah. He's charming, he seems nice, he seems like to be the most polite dude.
Well, and in that society, you automatically sympathize with him because life is terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
And life
Exactly.
It's hard and difficult.
So it made sense to give, out of all the characters a flashback, you're going to give it to him. So, yeah, that just added so much weight to not liking him. Because in that one scene, you're like, I don't know if I should like this guy anymore.
Well, and it's further challenging because you think to yourself, like, a racist bastard of a general, like, if I could get my hands on him or his kid or somebody, like, that's a revenge fantasy.
Yeah.
Someone might tell on a battlefield,
I think that Tarantino intended that sort of thing for every character because with each one you're pretty much misled and then so suddenly and abruptly you see just how despicable they are. Like for Kurt Russell's character, you see him just kind of conversing with Samuel L. Jackson like they're, he seemed like he was a pretty decent person for the most part, and then when he elbows Daisy in the face, you really see how disgusting of a person he is.
Didn't he punch her before that too?
Yeah,
well,
something
yeah,
like that, yeah.
But they're holding up this affable conversation, and then he'll just whack her, and you're like,
right?
Like they're not viewing her.
And
as a
same
person.
thing with the woman, Daisy. You see this poor, beaten, vulnerable woman, but then when you see her the way that she's looking at Samuel L. Jackson, like, licking her lips when she has blood all over her face. You just see how disgusting she is. And then with the whole gang, when you see them, at first they're very charming. You can see they're friendly, lovable, funny, and then all of a sudden they massacre an entire
Well, it's like
home.
everyone is rough. Everybody is from a nasty part of older Western society, and everyone has a lack of humanity somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
Because these are you have a bounty hunter, an ex-soldier, you have like a racist old general, you have a gang. Like, everyone comes from a rough place in society, if not a bad place in society.
Tarantino, what I love about his films, and this film did it too, where I'm watching it, and before the intermission, during the intermission, I was like, where exactly is this film even going? But then you see it's going somewhere eventually. And I like how Tarantino does that, where you might be watching things play out, but you're like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Like, they're just talking. But
I really like that they pulled a lot of music from The Thing, because because Ennio Morricone scored The Thing for John Carpenter, and I don't think he used much of any of it.
And I think he also took one from Exorcist 2.
What?
Or something.
What are you talking about? I thought it was original.
Ennio Morricone scored, I think it's 30 or 35 minutes of new music just for Hateful Eight. But what he also did was he gave Tarantino the music he made for The Thing, because John Carpenter didn't use a vast majority of it.
So they used what was intended for The Thing, but didn't actually get put in the movie.
Exactly. And
that's cool.
And
that is cool.
They're not the same kind of movie, but there are kind of, you got a bunch of folks stranded in an Arctic, or in a frigid outpost somewhere, kind of all paranoid of one another. It's just kind of
it just went with the theme.
Yeah.
Of it. Yeah. It was great music, I think.
Neat connective tissue between the Hateful Eight and The Thing.
You know what I really love about this movie is how they do exactly
what
you...
How many dicks get shot?
No, what you talked about, where this movie, like, Tarantino does it beautifully, where he knows how to make you go, oh, well, here's what a typical movie would do. And he doesn't go, let's have them do the opposite, but let's just have them do something different, than what you'd expect. Because an easy way to fool an audience can be like, let's do the opposite of what they're thinking. But then, but instead of just going for opposite, he's like, let's just take this in a direction people wouldn't even expect.
Yeah, it was very unpredictable.
And like unveiling people, like, I would have never seen them coming together at the end, Sam Jackson and Walton Goggins. And I would have never seen that coming. I would have never seen it coming that Walton Goggins would live that far, till the very end.
Yeah.
Like that scene where he's talking about the money and like getting it. His reasoning for why he is not accepting the money, I completely bought. Because at first I'm like, well, knowing the character, he's probably going to give in to the money.
Yeah.
Then he doesn't, and they give perfect reasoning out of a little detail.
Oh yeah, you're like, you broke my trust. I could have been vomiting gallons of blood right now, but since I'm now helpful to you, I don't necessarily buy your story.
Like his detail, the details of Tarantino's little tiny fucking things, like the Abraham Lincoln letter. You're not thinking that's gonna pay any, real importance, and then it does. And the dynamics with Kurt Russell and Sam Jackson, like when Sam Jackson sees the little ball thingy, the candy or whatever on the floor, and then they don't do like a shot where it slowly zooms in on the one that Sam Jackson was looking at or something.
Right.
And the same thing with Walton Goggins spilling the coffee. It seems so casual, but it's an important part.
Well, and it's all, that's sort of the stuff that does go wrong, or that does give away. It's like he figures out the whole thing with the stew. It's like, it's a little detail nobody would have thought of. But if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And that's, usually these things come apart, at least in these movies, and I'm sure in certain plans.
Yeah.
Like, stuff comes apart when you overlooked a detail somebody else is not going to.
And it's just a fun mystery. Like, the twists and turns. I can see why someone would really prefer the first half. Because the last half, it's kind of a nitpick for me, and at the same time, it's kind of just a criticism for me. I feel like the last act kind of just lost a lot of the mystery vibe, And
Well, because the second half's when it all comes out. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
yeah, but then it just turns into like massive bloodshed. Then I kind of like that though, because
the first half is like setting up a whole bunch of dominoes, and then the second half comes in and goes, here is the finger that's gonna knock these over, and it's called the cup.
yeah, so that's
Like,
why I like it at the
know.
same time because
You know, and then from there you just watch them all fall down.
because you are watching these characters for like a solid hour and 40 minutes, not being super ruthless, and then suddenly they're all like, fuck, there's blood everywhere, you know?
Well, yeah, because they're supposed to all kind of just be waiting. Like, the guys that just, we're just going to wait this out and not do a whole lot of stuff. And they end up doing a whole lot of stuff.
Like, they blow off that guy's head, all the vomiting on the blood, like Kurt Russell even vomits on the girl at one point.
So gross.
Yeah.
Honestly, the first half of the movie, I had so much fun. Like, from the just even running into the theater, because I guess there's no trailers
Yeah, it's just the
for
overture.
the movie, and we didn't know that, and it was starting. It was 12:15, and we were running to the theater. We get in there, and it was just such a different experience because it wasn't like a normal film. And then I was laughing throughout the entire thing. I thought it was incredibly entertaining. But to be completely honest, the second half I probably wouldn't want to see again, just because it was just too brutal for me, for my own personal opinion.
I don't blame you.
That's just who I am. It's not what I prefer to watch.
I really don't blame you, because it's the violence. What I like movies with violence where the violence is effective, where it's shocking in a sense where, how do I put it? You know, it's not like torture, gore, fun in any way. It's shocking and it's effective and it serves the story.
And it's Tarantino. It's like, it's not like I wasn't expecting it. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Well, and especially with this, is like Tarantino has a way of making it so that violence still has rhythm, but still hurts. Like, you're still like, ugh! Like, you know.
Like, there's still style, yet it's like disturbing. Like when he starts Bob starts stabbing that guy in the back.
God.
That's
Like,
like fucking disturbing.
Like, that's brutal, and that's we have that whole thing about like stabbing people in the back is like a dishonorable way of killing somebody. Like, it's ugly. Like, it's allowed to be ugly.
But then you got like fun gore where like the vomiting can be funny in some ways.
Oh, that was
and
gross.
He shoots off the guy's head, blows off the guy's head at one point.
Yeah, that was just too much.
No, you see, like, I could see why people would say, and I'm glad there's an intermission, because seriously, after the intermission, it's a very different film, but it works. It does make the leap there. I wouldn't say like a slow transition. It's like it makes the leap to that next type of genre that this film is.
Yeah, you get a refresher, and it's like, where were we? Oh, here.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. It was such a different, fun movie experience.
It was an experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Tarantino set out to give you an experience that wasn't what a lot of directors today wouldn't do, which is, hey, we're going to throw an intermission in there, we're going to have an overture, fuck the trailers. I'm gonna narrate parts over it.
Making it an event to go to the theater and experience a movie again.
Yeah.
I have to say though, the narration kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. I didn't feel like. I mean, whose voice was that?
Is that
I think
Tarantino's?
That's what I was
Is that
thinking.
Tarantino? I couldn't tell if that was Tarantino or Steve Buscemi.
He usually does some kind of cameo in his movies.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that was Tarantino. There's certain ways he spoke that sounded Tarantino.
Yeah, it was him. I'm looking at it on IMDb right now. It was him.
Yeah, okay.
Good job, Jay. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And I like how Tarantino knows in this world that race plays a big part. Like that little detail of why Mimi wouldn't let Bob work here.
Mimi.
Why Minnie?
Who the hell is this?
Why Minnie wouldn't let Bob work there because he's Mexican.
Yeah.
I'm like, at that time, it was a racist world. People really defined themselves. Like, they would look at people by their race. And it's funny, The Revenant does that too.
Well, they're both from a time where that would, from the frontiers and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, having that detail, I'm like, I totally buy that. I believe that could happen. And and you know what, man, this movie is pretty fucking awesome. I think the movie's awesome. All the characters are.
It's an interesting flick.
It's called. I'm just saying, it's called Hateful Eight, and if it held back, I would have fucking hated it.
Well, and going back to that thing you said before, like taking things and not necessarily doing the opposites, but doing something different with certain plot points. I feel like that is a fundamental Tarantino thing, where it's like a lot of movies today, we focus on the plot, and it's like, okay, what can we do different with the plot? Whereas I feel like Tarantino comes from it the other side and goes, what choice would this character make?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's what all of his, like, part of the reason people love his dialogue so much is because it's character development, but it's character development by going, okay, what would these two guys, I know who these people are, what would they talk about,
Yeah.
what would they react to,
Yeah.
what would they notice? And that's, how these plots unfold, because every story in life comes out of people reacting the way they would react, not because of a predetermined plot.
Exactly.
It's incredibly original and unique.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think the plot was very unique.
Totally, yeah. And I could see why people were saying it's Reservoir Dogs similarities. Because, it primarily takes place in one location the whole time.
And there was a bloodbath.
Yeah, there's a bloodbath at the end where everyone just starts killing each other.
The difference here is that the thing has yet to go down, whereas in Reservoir Dogs it went down off screen beforehand.
Yeah. And I like what, with Tim Roth, I'm glad he's back in a Tarantino film. Because he hasn't done anything with him since Pulp Fiction.
I thought he was so great.
Yeah, it was like back in the
fantastic.
90s when he worked with Tarantino last.
Yeah.
And he started off with Tarantino in Reservoir Dogs. So to see him back and then what I love about Tim Roth in every fucking Tarantino film, he's a different character, totally different. Sam Jackson kind of has his thing. Even when he's playing old Sam Jackson who's serving DiCaprio, like even there's like the Sam Jackson touches. Tim Roth is always like totally different.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's cool that he uses that kind of character actor, Tarantino, to his effect.
Yeah.
Because he usually brings people in to be like, I hear their voice doing it. Tim Roth, he brings them in to like really change up the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, Scorsese has his DiCaprio now and had his De Niro.
Well, and this seems like Tarantino has a sort of what do you call that? Like a troupe of people he likes to work with, but he'll kind of put them all in the right places. Like it doesn't seem like he'll shoehorn.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Tim Roth was the guy to play that character. You could have put Christoph Waltz there, but he's not the right guy.
I totally saw Christoph Waltz playing that as well, but I was glad that it was Tim Roth.
Yeah.
We just recently watched Reservoir Dogs, so it was cool to see his face, and but you could really see how much time has passed since his first movie.
Yeah.
By seeing how Tim Roth has aged.
What was I gonna say? I had a really good point. It was such a strong point that you guys were gonna freak out over and be like, "Yes, I'm glad you addressed that," but I can't remember at all what it was. How'd you feel about the ending?
I mean, I thought I'd end it kind of right where it was supposed to, because that's the thing too. Is like, this is the kind of movie you can be okay with, because everybody dies. Like, everybody dies because everyone's a shitty person for some reason. But, it's about the way people die.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I would have liked a different outcome, honestly.
I thought it was kind of cool that they hung her.
I would have liked if they got Daisy out of that and the gang won.
But the gang is still very shitty people. Like,
I would have hated that actually.
I don't know.
Like, shitty
I just
people
wanted
will still win.
I wanted the girl to win.
Fair.
I'll probably get some hate from the subscribers about that, but whatever. I'm a girl, and that's my opinion.
No, I know you can't.
That's
That's the thing is there's other people out there who are going to want other people to win.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, and for a moment there, I thought it was at least possible it could go that way. Like,
yeah.
It was like, oh shit, he's listening now. This could go that way.
The reason why I thought that it was strange that he decided not to go with the deal is because I honestly believed her that there was 15 other gang members in the city.
It doesn't matter. She's dead. He's dead.
Well, it's that thing of like we don't know, and that's kind of how well you. It's how you react to her. It's like you could easily go, I think she's lying too, or I think she's telling the truth. But to him, I think it just ultimately doesn't matter because because he recognizes that she's just taking the opportunity
Yeah.
and going, you are my only ally left in the room, and I can spin this.
This movie's like
But I would have let you stand there and vomit up torrents of blood
Yeah.
a minute ago, so that we have no rapport here.
Can you blame her though? I loved her facial expression when he mentioned that. She just seemed like it was like, duh. Why would I try to save anybody here right now? I don't give a shit about anybody. Just like you don't give a shit about anybody.
But that's a very tenuous threat. Like that's a very. You can't necessarily count on somebody to go, well, yeah. Like,
yeah.
I would have done that too. Like,
Yeah.
Dude, this movie was awesome. So different.
Oh, can we talk about Bob?
Bob, Demian Bashir.
I know you didn't laugh as much, but I did.
Well, he was great.
I thought
Yeah,
it
he
was
was awesome.
hilarious. He was so much fun.
He had so much personality, and he had such a kind of relaxed way about him.
The one Mexican character.
Yeah.
Because you never see Mexican or Latino people in timepieces like that.
Especially Westerns, too.
Yeah.
Well, you do. You did.
You did. No,
you did in older westerns.
But not
you
as
would.
not as such a like
But not
not
as-
a character like that.
Yeah,
though.
less vocally. They're, and granted, I haven't seen a million westerns, but a lot of the Mexicans you see are like kind of the way they treat Indians, maybe a little more
Yeah.
civilized, or Native Americans, I should say. But, you know, like kind of more civilized, but still like they're not the people we want to be dealing with a whole lot. Or
Yeah.
maybe they're a sidekick of some kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't see...
This gang loved him. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
They all hug each other before like the mission begins. Like they all. I like that moment where the gang hugs each other because they're like, we all might die.
That's
you know.
why I wanted the gang to win.
Like this
Well,
is
yeah,
a
they're-
risky mission.
That is something you do have to give them. Is like, you know, they're a multicultural
They're like a
bunch.
family.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's a Cockney guy, a Mexican guy, a woman. There's, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
A pretty boy.
a pretty boy, and you
Yeah,
don't know
Michael
who else
Madsen.
might have been in the gang before. And Michael Madsen, yeah, the creepy, quiet guy.
I gotta say, man, Zoe Bell. I think she's evolved as an actress.
She's very natural. I mean, she's almost like a little girl.
Because in
She's
Death,
so bouncy.
she's the New Zealand chick. And well, hold on, one second.
Okay, go ahead.
You don't remember Death Proof? I saw Death Proof, and I remember not knowing the fact that she's really a stunt woman, and that's what makes it so cool that she's in the movie and stuff. I thought she was just an actress.
Yeah.
Who like did her own stunts at one point.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really like her acting in that film.
Death Proof?
Yeah, I didn't really like her acting in that film. I was very aware that, like, once I heard she was a first-time actress, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But watching this, I was like, she seems like she's become a lot more natural and a lot more comfortable saying actual dialogue. So it was cool to see that, like, I can see why Tarantino still keeps you around, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're just bound to get better.
Yeah. Well,
she could
and
be a-
she brings something, like, she is the most cheerful character
Yeah,
in the movie.
she was.
Which is just a nice break.
Yeah.
From so much dour, and it also then makes her fate that much more upsetting. But like,
Totally.
but you know, it's nice to have a little ray of sunshine for a second there.
I feel like Tarantino really has fun with his audience.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
He loves to fuck with us. And I liked, there's a couple of touches that I did like that he added too. You know, normally in films, when someone gets shot in the crotch, that's the end of that character. He let that be something that plays out with Sam Jackson.
Well, because again, I'm not an expert, but I imagine a lot of things that happened back then, you would just bleed out for a long time. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, you would sustain a wound, and then you would just sort of, especially, you know, trapped like that. We're gonna be here a while.
Yeah, and the bleeding out thing
In
is kind of
pain.
similar to like Tim Roth and Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Bleeding out the whole time. Yeah, so having that touch of Sam Jackson, you know, having his balls blown off, but like, letting that, you know, I respect him for like going all out like that with a character. Like that scene when he rapes the guy, immediately it's like, I don't think I like this guy. Like,
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's especially cruel.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in theory, I get the idea, but you don't actually do it.
yeah, because it's like I think like,
I
well,
get
this
why
guy
you would be this upset, but no, like that's
Yeah,
terrible.
this guy, you know, Sam Jackson's character might have been a, you know, former slave for all we know. And he was someone who was probably tortured and ridiculed by people like him.
He did mention a plantation.
Yeah.
Living on a plantation.
Yeah, he probably grew up a slave, and then, you know,
he was, and
Especially-
slaves were fucking not treated well, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, in theory, he has every reason to hate, especially because it's that guy's son. Like, he has every reason to hate and not view this guy as a human being because he probably didn't view him as a human being. He's just a bounty price. But when you see and hear the account, you're still like, cruelty is cruel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Very,
you know.
very mean-spirited.
yeah, absolutely.
you're like, you
That
wanted this to
disturbed me.
hurt.
I know,
You
but then he gets his balls blown off, and then it's like, that's him the whole finale. And I like how Sam Jackson was just really committed to every second of it, you know? Like, he was not trying to be likable.
He is good,
You
man.
know?
He is so good.
He was great in it. And it's not, I like
Well,
seeing
he's-
Sam Jackson disappear into a role again.
He's
you know?
not trying to be likable or despicable. He's just being that guy. Like, he's just being that character. You know?
Man.
And these performances are so natural that it's like someone there deserves a fucking Oscar nomination, but you really can't decide who. You know?
Yeah, you're like, this wouldn't work without all of you. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
This is a movie for which you wish, because like I think SAG has like an ensemble award, and this is a movie you wish the Oscars or the Golden Globes had an
Yeah.
ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should.
Because you're like, all these parts, like this movie moves because of these parts.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Damn, this would be an awesome fucking play. I can't help but think that. I really can't. This would
Yeah,
be
I
an
mean,
awesome play. Like, it's one location the whole time, and the idea, and like, I think a lot of Tarantino stuff could be. Reservoir Dogs, I heard, was I actually heard there was a play done for Reservoir Dogs, and it was all girls.
that's cool.
Cool.
That'd be cool to watch, huh?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what Like a Virgin's about. It's all about a girl.
It's a guy with a big dick.
No, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. Yeah, I mean, is that like pretty much every? What'd you think? Oh yeah. We should talk about
Cinematography's great.
cinema. I was thinking that too when I was watching it. Like, damn, there's some beautiful cinematography.
And it's not as wild as some of the other Tarantino movies get with the like there aren't a lot of those like whip zooms and things like that.
Flash title text, you know?
Yeah, like it's the least. Because even Inglourious Bastards has like a 70s exploitation
totally.
interlude
With the random Sam Jackson narrations and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
And Django is more straight than Inglourious Bastards in some ways, but it's still, there are a lot of pop music cues.
No, there's a lot of color to that film, yeah.
Anachronistic, yeah. Whereas this is the most sort of stark of them. And the camera, like, you know, the way they shot it is gorgeous, but it's also refined. And then they did these things with these like split diopter shots that you would have seen back then.
Yeah.
And it's a little more like doing it because that's what they would have done.
Yeah,
instead
like
of
the-
calling
like the-
direct attention.
Like there's
to it.
there's the shot where Waltzing Goggins is holding the gun against Michael Madsen and Tim Roth, and then you know, Sam Jackson's like refilling his bullets and stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that shot. It's kind of like Brian De Palma reminiscent, actually, to me, a little bit, yeah. And I know he was a big fan of Brian De Palma growing up too, so
okay.
I feel like that there could be that touch for sure. And I was rewatching a lot of Tarantino films, and he really has evolved a lot as a director. You know, like like with the editing style too. I know, you know, he didn't edit the film, but the editing style of this film, I noticed
he doesn't edit his films, but like you can always tell that he works like
with the editor.
He's got an editor he trusts and who he can work with.
Yeah, and I like how this film, I think this is like the most cuts I've seen him do since like Kill Bill Volume 1. Because he normally lets the camera just really go on, you know? And sometimes it's just a master shot of the actors just performing.
Yeah.
This film, I noticed he does mess with angles a little bit more, and not in a flashy way. Like, I didn't feel like I was watching Tarantino film this time around.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just watching a fucking film, you know?
Well, I feel like that almost makes it more thrilling. Is like you're confined to one space and it's not very big. So if we can play with focal lengths and how frequently we're cutting and what we're cutting to,
Yeah.
you know, and also just like if some character's talking, there are times where they'll cut away to a different character for a while doing stuff. So you really get the sense for the room. And it makes it a little more thrilling, you know,
Yeah.
because it makes the room feel a little more claustrophobic, and you know.
Yeah. And before we're done, I want to mention Bruce Dern.
Yeah.
Even him, it's like, at first I was like, these characters are kind of one note. And then I thought about it immediately after I said that to myself, and I was like, no, they're not. what am I talking about?
Yeah, I was a little thrown off when you said that.
Well, these characters, yeah, I mean, these just aren't people who are gonna give you a lot up front.
I think they were all very defined characters.
Yeah, they were all very defined, and I like what they did with. I love that turn. You know, you don't see it coming. Like the general is talking about his son at one point, right? And you just don't see that coming with what Sam Jackson talks about. But the setup to that, where he walks over to him, gives him a bowl of what was it, soup or whatever?
Oh, stew.
And then he was like, I shared the battlefield with this guy. You know, can I sit down? But he just wants to sit there to taunt him, to give him the gun so he could shoot him, you know? And I like how they established that earlier too. Like, you can't shoot an old guy. No, he's unarmed. You can't shoot someone unarmed. And then he finds a way to make the guy pick up the gun to shoot him.
He's such an asshole.
Well, then that makes you
like
wonder.
He's real.
Then that makes you wonder if that story is actually true, because it's such a ridiculous story. It's so, and also like putting your dick in somebody's mouth is not. Again, I don't know, but I don't think that was a common thing you would just cop to in a room back then. Yeah, you know, because that.
And it was kind of shot
people
like
weren't just down with homosexual behavior.
It was kind of shot like a fantasy too.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of shot like maybe that's why he cut to that. Maybe not as a flashback, but he was just showing like some imagination thing. Because he says to him, "You're starting to get pictures, huh?" Remember when he said that to him? Like, that's a great line. You know, like totally fucking with this guy. And I remember when the intermission hit, I was like, I don't think he actually did that. But they don't ever establish whether or not he actually did it or not. You know?
You know what? I kind of felt like there wasn't a well, he shoots him and then it cuts to intermission, and then when we come back, everybody's all chill.
That's how it would have been. It's a Western too.
And they touch on that too. They're like, you know, it's in the narration. They're like self-defense. I mean, like it's pretty cut and dry. Like he reached for the gun and he shot him to defend himself. And we're all kind of done with that.
You're living in a time.
Nobody in that room has a tie to that character. That's the one character who has no allegiance to anybody.
Yeah, smart, very smart.
You really was life remotely like that though, where people just kill each other? Like,
but
justice is a lot more gray back then, because you don't have surveillance. All you have to go on is the word of a few people, and everyone's packing. Like,
exactly.
And they even go over that thing about justice versus mob justice, or frontier justice.
Yeah, true.
You know, justice was less systematic, at least back then. You know. There are places you can hide from the law back then. And if a bunch of people are in an isolated space, I can imagine that they would have been like, well, we all saw it. There's no reason to take this any further.
Right.
Especially if they're all kind of shitty people.
Yeah, and James and Obi too. Like he managed.
Oh, Obi. Poor Obi.
Poor Obi.
Yeah.
Obi was like the one guy where I was like, "Oh, buddy, like you're a good driver and you got a cool hat."
He never wanted anything bad to happen.
He was respectful.
He was respectful. He fucking went outside to do necessary shit all the time.
Such a funny moment when he comes back in and is pissed because he almost died in the blizzard. Oh man, that was funny.
That was a fun
Do you
film.
want some stew?
I'm really impressed. You know, I said earlier it's not one of my favorite Tarantino films, but I feel like it's climbing the list.
It could be. I've heard a few people say that it's their favorite since Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it's totally climbing the list.
You know, it seems to be just from the few like sort of top 10s I've seen, or top 8s of Tarantino films. It's, for a lot of people I know, it's hovering in the middle to the kind of number 4 area.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was definitely the most entertaining that I've watched.
Yeah.
And it's the most straightforward, you know.
Yeah, and it's the most. Yeah, it's most different out of his films lately.
Yeah, it's the most different.
So character driven, you know.
Because it's
not to say real fast. Sorry, not to say that his films are not character driven. I'm saying like this only like practically relies on character for everything in the film.
Well, it's orchestration. It's like, you know, it's so different because it's not simple per se. It's just all the complicated stuff is in trust and character notes, and it's it's all in one place.
Yeah.
And it's all one situation, and it's all one fundamental kind of idea.
I love this movie. Anyway, guys, listen, we got to wrap this up. Thanks for tuning in to our spoiler talk.
Well, yeah,
Anything else anyone want to mention?
It's just nice to have a movie that garners quite so much just discussion.
Yeah.
Because you get them every now and again, but you don't get them a ton, in Hollywood cinema.
Oh, totally, dude. And Tarantino's one of the few people who they'll get away with that.
Yeah, it's like I like Marvel movies, but there's not like a rich well of discussion. Yeah, Captain America's a good guy. Like
the only discussion that really comes from that is like Marvel and stuff is like comparison to the comics and shit.
Yeah. It's like I enjoy when a movie of this guy. It's like Tarantino's one of the few, and you could argue Christopher Nolan in a way. There are a few of these guys, but I think Tarantino especially, where they'll give you something that you can chew on and you might have different reactions to.
Absolutely.
And that has a certain level of craft. It's like everyone can recognize its crafting, but the content, people can debate. And
absolutely.
That's a nice thing.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
It was exciting.
Yeah, and you can feel the energy in the theater too. People were excited about it.
And you see a penis.
And you see penis.
Which happened a lot more in the 70s. That was kind of a 70s thing, because I was watching an old Richard Harris movie, and there's a moment where he's captured by a bunch of natives, and he's like bathing in a river, and they're chasing him around on their horses and stuff like that, and he's just naked, and they capture him, and like they take him back to their village, like, and it was a thing you would see more, and people wouldn't be as it's a dick, like in the 70s. Like,
yeah.
That poor actor.
Yeah, that must have been a shitty day on set for that actor.
That poor actor. We're like, we're gonna hire you. You're gonna be naked.
Yeah.
We're gonna show your genitals. Then you gotta suck Samuel L. Jackson's dick.
Craig Stark.
In the snow.
Craig Stark is his name. Poor guy.
Boy. What have you
I was
done?
thinking that. I was thinking, like, I wonder how embarrassing that was to show that to his friends and family.
Hey man, maybe he's very comfortable
knowing
with
how many
himself.
people are gonna see
But
that.
It's actually Scotland's most respected actor.
well, that's the
Just joking.
Not just him be naked, but sucking Samuel L. Jackson's dick.
That performance required nothing but being degraded.
well, and I mean, granted, they're both in a shitty situation, but those are two things that we don't kind of ever acknowledge as like male on male sexual assault of any kind, unless we're joking about it in a prison comedy, and just dudes being naked is a weird thing for people in movies.
Yeah.
That is slowly starting to change, but it's just interesting that those
I
should
think
be
films need more penis.
at least an equal amount of penis.
Well, equal. You mean equal to vagina?
I think
Well,
for
no,
every two
I don't know.
tits, we see a penis.
That was actually the rule that the Duplass brothers imposed on their HBO show. They're like, for every pair of boobs, we will show a dick.
What?
Yeah, to keep things balanced. That's the girl on Game of Thrones. What's her name? The one who plays Daenerys Targaryen on Game of Thrones was like,
her.
there should be. I think she said this. She was like, actresses get naked on the show all the time.
Yes.
There should be, or I think Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow, also echoed this. Was like, there should be more male nudity. It should just be, if this is a thing we're gonna accept happens, like everybody got naked and we should just show everybody, because that's not fair.
I think that's cool.
I'm gonna show my penis.
So like this movie has nudity, but it's only frontal male nudity. And
How do I get a bigger penis?
Don't they have pumps?
I will pump my penis before we film. These reactions are gonna change. Listen, guys, if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe to The Real Rejects. Jerry, Reasons to Jerry, Dank ass Stubs on this channel. Veronica Sixtos has her own channel. It's primarily epic movie reviews.
No, it's not, guys. It's music and video vlogs.
It's actually acoustic songs about movies.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
It's a music channel, music and kind of travel vlog channel.
Yeah. And if you're Jewish, you'll love it. You'll love it.
I'll throw this in there. I actually documented meeting Tyrone Magnus in the last couple of vlogs that I did. If you guys want to see behind the scenes with Ryan and Tyrone, check out my vlogs.
I thought you were going to say, I met a Jew and I got it on camera for the first time.
What?
That's terrible.
I thought that's what you were going to say because I was talking about how it's good for a Jewish audience.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to bring that back. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Pierce.